Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sprint 247 review. Let's get started. I'll start with the overview, Gilbert on the UI, Adam on providers, Joe on the platform, and Keenan on the API. As you can see, this sprint was relatively normal with 100 PRs merged this sprint and an even distribution over bugs and enhancements. And over to Gilbert on the UI.
Hey, thanks, Jason. So going off for the UI, we had a couple bug fixes. So starting off, we fixed a typo in the fork name, and we removed new lines from the result message. We had an enhancement that used the core minimum but allowed 7.0/7.1/7.2 since the core sets the upper limit. We had a dependency upgrade, bumping the elliptic version from 6.5.5 to 6.5.7, and then a couple miscellaneous PRs, removing unused controller stub from the spec and updating the assignee. Next slide. So then we had the UI service specific UI fixes. So 6 dependency upgrades. We had the yarn.lock being upgraded, Webpack upgraded from 5.78 to 5.94. We pinned the path to regex package. We bumped Express from 4.19.2 to 4.21. We bumped Axios from 1.6.8 to 1.7.4. And we bumped Body Parser from 1.20.2 to 1.20.3. And then another miscellaneous one, we updated the assignee on this repo as well. That's it for the UI. Next is Adam on providers.
All right, thanks, Gilbert. For AWX this sprint, Nasser fixed a bug with the Ansible template runner. So there was an issue with workflows and regular templates not inheriting from the same base class. So they were getting skipped when we were trying to query for them. So he fixed this to use the same common parent class for both of those. For embedded Terraform, we fixed a bug where Kubernetes was not, our orchestrator on Kubernetes was not deleting the OpenTofu runner pod when, for example, you disabled the role. So it would just leave it running and then it wouldn't restart it when you went to re-enable it. This was also an issue with changing settings because we never tore down the old worker to be able to restart the new one to be able to apply any different settings. And we also removed a change directory call in the Terraform runner, which was causing some unrelated spec failures due to the current working directory being different across the different tests. For Google, Samuel added the ability to parse VM labels for Google Compute Engine VMs. So we're now collecting those, parsing them, and you'll see them in the ManageIQ UI. Next slide. For KubeVirt, we did quite a lot of work here. So Nasser added service catalog provisioning support for KubeVirt and also fixed a bug with the KubeVirt client when trying to get the resource, specifically trying to get the template. We weren't passing a namespace and that was causing the API call to fail. And so he fixed that up so that cloning the template to a VM works now. And we also fixed a small bug introduced where the OpenShift infra refresh worker wasn't starting due to the authentication looking like it was invalid when it actually wasn't. For VMware, we fixed a bug with the set description operation. It was the only API call on the provider which was not taking a hash as an argument, and some intermediate code was changed recently, probably years ago, to assume that all the arguments were hashes and it was merging something in for tracking, and that was failing. So got that fixed up. So now you can set the description on your VMware VMs. For Flow, Keenan enforced the choice state types. So if something is supposed to be a Boolean, it'll make sure that the choice state is a Boolean when you go to check it. Jason added a tool for using the AWS Step Function Simulator with the Flow gem. And we added a workflow base class, which is essentially the fundamentals of workflow and how to run it and step through and check non-block and all that, which is going to be the basis for the map state item processor. So if you look at the map state the item processor is essentially a stripped down workflow. And so that's why we introduced a workflow-based class. So that should be being made use of in the next sprint review. And that's it for providers. Over to Joe.
Thanks, Adam. For platform enhancements, Keenan has been busy getting us to Ruby 3.3. He started by allowing it in the core gem file. He also added handling for both Ruby 3.1 and 3.3 error message formats, and testing more repositories in Ruby 3.2 and 3.3. Keenan also updated the fast get text gem for Ruby 3.2 and newer. In addition, he removed kernel taint usage as it was deprecated in 3.2 and removed in 3.3. Next, Adam wrapped the Rails 7.1 and 7.2 changes around the broadcast logger to provide an interface that will work with Ruby Rails 7 or newer. Jason enhanced the Podify Docker file to detect and use the latest version of dumb init instead of using a strict static version. Keenan made many improvements in the RPM build repository, including updating Python packages. He also removed some no longer needed dependencies and updating some system RPMs. He also improved the performance issue in N+1 when looking up RPMs. And Jason added active support versions into the CI matrix for ManageIQ loggers. Next slide. Okay, I added basic Rails 7.1 support with the intent to try out 7.2 so that the upgrade will be easier. This involved adding these versions to the test matrix and several repositories. Moving to 7.1, I enhanced the main application to use the Rails 7 cache format, which will allow us to use the old Rails 6.1 cache format. And those will be able to be loaded and persisted in a new format. I made a few changes to the update all GitHub action for generating pull requests on a schedule. So that now will run with Ruby 3.1, use the new pull request script, and auto-sign the PRs and clean up around the titles. Adam removed the EMS ID's comma-separated list format, which isn't used anymore as it's now a single ID. He also refactored the worker environment variables for systemd and Kubernetes from several locations into one single environment variables method. Next slide. For platform bugs, Adam fixed the MIQ temp file positional versus keyword argument bug when it was forwarded to Ruby's temp file. Jason prevented bundler 2.5.19, which caused an issue with bundler inline. This is fixed in 2.5.20. Keenan simplified the fix-all test, avoiding some of the sporadic test failures. Brandon fixed Podify to ensure we have routes or an ingress and not both. Keenan fixed a sporadic blacklist test. Jason fixed an issue with the Brakeman security suite, handling fingerprints when run with clones instead of symlinks, and handle when run from an engine from an engine from within another engine. Adam ensured workers with systemd units in failure state are marked as stopped. And finally, Adam fixed the sporadic failure in tests that can occur when a tests are run in parallel. Next slide. On to Keenan.
Sorry about that. I'm not sure if this was last week's or this week's, but Joe fixed up the API, so it was no longer referencing RSS, and we dropped that feature so that everything worked fine. On to Jason.
All right, and that's all for our Sprint 247 review. Our next Sprint review 248 is on October 16th at the usual place and time. And as always, I'd like to thank all the presenters today, all the contributors to ManageIQ, and our community. Thanks, everyone.